Okay, I think the time is up and we are about to start our fourth midterm webinar of LUCIA project. Hope you can hear and probably see me, and just wait for a moment that all are on board from the lobby, that they are not going to be in the lobby having a nice breakfast or something. We are now session to start here in the session room. So yes, my name is Topi Haapanen. I'm working in development company Posintra in Porvoo, Finland, as a regional director of regional development, and we are doing in Posintra business advising, but also this kind of development projects like LUCIA. And today I have a great pleasure to be as your moderator in this webinar. And of course, I have this co-pilot technical support mastermind behind all these platform issues, Nicholas Fink. And so we are very safe hands when the technical problems occur, because I'm sure that they will occur, but we are very used to solve these things. So we are in safe hands thanks to our support. So today we have LUCIA midterm webinar number 4. And in each webinar we will highlight relevant lightning subjects and give insights to the experience and interim results of LUCIA partnered cities. And each spotlight will be co-hosted by one of our LUCIA projects. And this case today it's our turn, Posintra's turn, and we have a keynote external expert or experts. I will introduce them later on, and then we have also a comment speech from Porvoo about how things are going in our pilot site. So, and then we have also, many of you know that we have this kind of exhibition room in this platform, and there are more information about our pilot site in Porvoo, and there are also a networking area if we have time after these presentations to go there. But from the expo booth, you can find for example, this street view from upcoming pilot site, which will happen in Porvoo. And you will see a little glance how it will look like after the end of the project. And of course, there will be our beloved fact sheets and also this calculation or assessment tool, which we have developed during this work package 2. So, LUCIA project, like we know, like we have learned, it's both learning by researching and learning by doing. And I would say that this is the unique and important aspect of our project, and very proud of that being able to work in this let's say framework. And in my opinion, this series of midterms webinars also shows to us, the LUCIA project team, that what we have really achieved so far. So this is really good summary where we are now, where we stand now, and we really can think where are we going for the rest of the project. So about this day's topic, we have this economic aspects, and we are going there with our distinguished experts. First, we have Carlos Lamuela. You can raise your hand and say hello. Carlos is urban consultant. Yes, Carlos is an urban consultant and researcher from Finnish consulting group. He's also an architect and expert in different kind of city development projects. He follows carefully what happens in developing cities, but not only following, but he's also contributing to the development by his work based on scientific knowledge, technological tools, and addition to that, sympathizing political values and ideas about sustainability. Hopefully, get it somehow right.
That was very good presentation.
Yes. Then we have Janis Brizga from Riga, head of board, Smartgreen Ltd, and NGO Green Liberty in Latvia.
Hello.
And I believe Janis' expertise is working on issues of sustainable development and sustainable consumption governance and environmentally friendly behavior. And we have a great opportunity to hear Brizga later on. And then we have Elina Leppänen from Porvoo. She's a planning manager in city of Porvoo, dealing with I would say all kind of infrastructure projects in many levels in Porvoo, city of Porvoo. Really great expert, and I would say that she's really the right person to give the comment what happens, really hands-on comment what happens in Porvoo in this LUCIA framework. Yes, and then this mandatory safety instructions for this webinar. Please, you can see the navigation bar on the left-hand side, and now we are all in the session room. That's good. Let's be here, and there you can find that expo link also. And speakers are using this video and audio when they share their screen and have their presentations. But when you are listening, then you will certainly have lots of good questions. I encourage you to raise those questions and type them on the chat. I will try to follow the chat, and after each presentation, we will get this short question and answer section after then. And yes, I think this is almost about it. And speakers, please do not leave this room, or just simply mute or shut down, hide your video, because then you can ensure that you won't be out from our session. And if happens so, then refresh your browser, and then we have a Nicholas to help us back here. So no worries, we have now 1.5 hours. I think we will use that all that time, and we go straight to the business. And now I think it's Carlos' turn to start, and his topic is economic governance and procurement for the transfer of smart urban lighting investments. And I think the screen or floor is yours, Carlos, please.
Thank you, Topi, and hello, everyone. I will start sharing my presentation in just a second. It should be now in your screens. I cannot see you as I present, so please, Topi or anyone, please do interrupt me if there's anything, as I have my presentation in full screen mode.
It's looking good, just go on.
All right, so as Topi said in that very good presentation, we work at Finnish Consulting Group with urban development in general, and for the LUCIA project, we were happy to provide some background consulting on the economics of smart urban lighting. And we thought that was very important, because the main goal of LUCIA is to, through piloting and through research, come up with ways of working that could help the diffusion of smart lighting in the Baltic Sea region and in general in Europe. As I will show you, for this, technology and economics go hand in hand, and they affect political decision making. So I'm starting here with this already published research that our colleagues in LUCIA did earlier this year, and they asked the pilot cities in LUCIA what do they already know, what's the awareness or the know-how, and they found that there's good knowledge about timing and reparability and labeling, like ingress protection. All those are technical issues. This was from a technical perspective, and also expected lifetime. But there was less knowledge in some themes that are more related to economics, such as supporting technologies, because they relate to new business models in innovative ways of doing things, in the reduction in maintenance costs. That also has to do with life cycle assessment and procurement, how you calculate what's going to happen with the project, and also about the energy consumption indicators, and that has to do with the overall strategy for the whole energy use in a city. Also, apparently applications for street lighting, and that means more like roads and traffic, are more commonly known, whereas applications for recreational, such as in the case of Porvoo, are not so well known. So through those three themes, innovation, project assessment, and strategy, I'm going to show you three obstacles that we found in the research, in the existing research. And hopefully then we can talk a little bit more about how those things appear or not appear in the LUCIA pilots. So as I said about innovation, I'm going to talk about outsourcing as a possible obstacle. In life cycle assessment, I'm going to talk about projectification or project thinking. And in strategy, I'm going to talk about lack of cooperation. I think that I'm not even going to have time to go on to savings, but maybe briefly touch on that as well. So the first obstacle that we have found is that in general, when we talk about new business models, the municipalities seem to assume that it's something that is going to come from outside. Some companies have some plans, and maybe we at the municipality have to bear the costs of some infrastructure, such as, for example, smart street poles with 5G antennas. That's true in part, but when we think about innovation, we should also, from the municipality perspective, also try to bring that innovation to our internal functioning. And that's also trying to enable new modes of governance, or for example, citizen labs, so that we can use technology also in the municipality operations. New modes of governance is especially important for procurement. Basically, you can go from this is from the fact sheet, so I will go very briefly through this, but you can read more in the fact sheets that are in the exhibition area. You can go from doing everything in-house, where the municipality takes all the risk. And that's, for example, designing a project and then designing a procurement process and buying the technology and running the technology, to the other side, where you basically externalize everything and you sign an agreement with a company that's going to do the smart lighting retrofit, and you agree on some energy savings, and you kind of like defer the risk to them because you have signed that if this saving does not occur, I won't pay you back this investment. But also this idea that we need to innovate within also goes to the political decision making. For example, we have there the word remunicipalization, which also refers to a process that apparently happened in Hamburg, one of the LUCIA pilot cities, by which the city kind of bought back the energy company. In the case of Porvoo, as we are talking about today, Porvoo owns an energy company, but it's a detached entity. And there are some risks in having things externally as well as internally, of course, but one option is to kind of like bring it back and remunicipalize that. So that was the first obstacle, to kind of like think that innovation is for the startups out there and not for the municipality. The second obstacle is project thinking, and also kind kind of like small decisions. And this is a problem because with sustainability, which is kind of like the elephant in the room for smart lighting, things are quite complex. And that means that when they are complex, you have to look at the overall situation. It means that possibly you need to involve, or not possibly, but for sure you need to involve the different functions in the municipality. You cannot stay within parks and recreation, for example, or within light and infrastructure. And also it means that you are going to have trade-offs and synergies. I mean, you really can have a win-win situation, but you win something and you lose something. But when we are talking about a project, we are kind of like focused on this particular case. And that's an obstacle to the diffusion of smart lighting, because often in a project, it's very difficult to quantify. That's what we found when we did the workshops in the different pilot cities, that there's some missing data, and people were saying, okay, we really cannot, it's not easy to calculate what's going to be the payback time or the safe energy of this particular project, because we are metering these lights are not meter separate from the rest of the network, things like that. Okay, that's of course a big issue, but if you forget about these particulars of this project, maybe you can look in the right direction qualitatively. So this is why it's important to say, okay, let's look at the overall picture. And then thirdly, it's difficult to cooperate, and it's a big obstacle when you try to organize an investment, because this is what the research on transaction economics says, is that when you start a project, you need to put money in the table. There are costs, but it's not very clear what's going to happen after the project, who benefits. And this is, in a way, funny. It's funny to say this, because in a LUCIA project, you have some additional money that comes from the EU. But of course, the EU cannot give additional money to every single municipality in the EU. So we need to think also about this, even if this is not exactly what has happened in the pilots. In the pilots, it was kind of like nice and easy to have some project money. So what I propose here is that this is also from literature on sustainability transitions, is that you could start talking about the goals, and there are lots of goals already from the EU, for example, being carbon neutral by 2040, I guess it is, maybe even earlier in some countries. So you say, okay, in 20 years we need to be carbon neutral, and then that's in 20 years. So then let's go backwards until today. So in 15 years we should be quite carbon neutral. For example, for the lighting, it means that we would have this and this situation. So you start to draw some paths, and you start to think who's going to pay for what, and who's going to get savings, benefits from what. And then also, it's very important to bring in the politicians. Although that's usually, it's difficult to cross the gap between the technical expertise and the politician activity. But you need to start talking with them. Okay, in 10 years, we're going to need to take this decision. How do you feel about that? And if this feels really difficult, maybe we need to choose a different path in which we take a different decision. And then still about strategy in the fact sheets, which I have here in Finnish, but please take a look at them in English in the exhibition side. We were talking about the fact that energy is possibly going to become more expensive, or in general, there will be less energy overall. So if you think of lighting investments only as a way to save some money, and that's your message when you go to the politicians or to the public, you're missing on a very important part of the story, and it is that we're going to have less energy. And that's That's basically because the energy that we use now, basically oil, is really efficient in comparison with renewable sources of energy. So research suggests that maybe we will have roughly 30% of the energy that we have now in the future, in a sustainable future. So they speak about energy transition, and of course the way to do that, it should be fair. It should be so that nobody in society kind of falls apart or is left without energy. In some countries in Europe, there are big issues of energetic poverty. For example, people not having enough money to warm up their houses. So we speak about a fair energy transition. And I think this theme could be a very interesting way to talk about sustainability in any municipality, because it's much less controversial than other fields, for example, traffic, where we also need to make difficult decisions, but kind of like restricting car traffic, it's very controversial. But with light, restricting light use also has positive aspects, such as bringing back the dark skies, or kind of like bringing back the historical, the feeling of a historical center, such as in Porvoo. So I think that's that from my presentation. I think I went quite fast, so there's more time to still comment. Let me stop sharing. Did I stop sharing my screen?
Yes, thank you, Carlos. And when we were doing this work in the framework of work package 2 in LUCIA, and especially about these economic issues, we really have to choose the topics which we are highlighting. And these are, of course, there are lots of things which we could produce our fact sheets all there, but we raised these issues into our scope to raise this question more. Like you saw, like you hear, like you know, we didn't pay so much attention to how much we can save energy, how much this will reduce your costs, because that's very obvious, and we know about the technology side that also LED technology itself is very profitable to do those savings. But instead we really look in a sort of indirect way how to make those, let's say, outcomes from better for the inhabitants, or also for the economic side, or also for the economic books of cities. Yes, we have some questions. Heike, you wanted to ask that how to measure so-called soft costs, for example, increased quality of life of inhabitants, because city is more interesting for tourists because of a certain lighting concept. Which category would fit short-term, long-term? So how to measure soft costs? What can you say about that?
I think, thanks, Heike. I think that it's just the key. It's just to measure that. So sometimes you cannot quantify, but you can measure. Are you going in the perceived better direction or worse direction? And for example, with light, if you have less glaring or light or intrusion in your house, or it's things that you cannot maybe quantify the impact, the economic impact, but you know that you're going in the right direction just by talking about that. I also wanted to say that, as Topi mentioned in the beginning, this is a work in progress. LUCIA is still going on. Also, I wanted to have this idea about economic best practices. So hopefully through the LUCIA project, we are figuring out, all the partners, what's the best way of doing things. And the idea is that a best practice is something that is easily transferable. That's kind of like the definition to another context because of how it is the qualities. So green public procurement is very important. We'll hear more about that today. The lessons learned from the pilots will be combined with work package 3, and from that hopefully we'll have a better proposal for a particularly smart lighting best practice. And from the kind of like economic governance in general, I'm kind of hoping that this idea that this energy transition, together with all the things that are in fact sheets about how to finance these projects, could maybe be tackled in a future Interreg project, where we kind of overcome this problem of the project thinking, this kind of like projectification.
Yes, and Jana has not really a question, but a comment that on strategic level, there should be a wider approach when assessing costs versus benefits. Vitality aspects, like Heike mentioned, and also overall goals in terms of low carbon and green transition. Yes, that it is. And so, like Carlos mentioned, and like there is in an info in the chat box, the economic fact sheets will be found in the Xbox booth for overview, but of course they are placed in our website, in LUCIA project website, where you can have it whenever you want it. So thank you, Carlos, for this. And remember, if you have more questions related to these strategy level topics, please keep in mind, write them down in the chat, because Carlos and all those speakers are with us all this webinar time. But now I think we are moving towards the second keynote, which is about the green public procurement. I have to say, in LUCIA project, we have work package number 3, and directed by Gate 21 from Albertslund from Denmark, and Sif Enevold, who is also with us today. We have also had Sif has done a great job with his colleagues in this matter too. But now we are taking this view. What happens in Riga, what are the key findings in Riga Planning Region, and also this comments from Porvoo are very much related on green public procurement, how it goes in real life. And of course, if you have some observation, you really need to tell us, please do that. But let's see what we have now coming up. And one remark for this is that in the very beginning of LUCIA project, when we had our kickoff meeting in Hamburg, we also noticed that this, which is the first, the chicken or the egg, because we were supposed to do those piloting, and some of them were very soon starting after the project was launched. And on the other hand, Work Package 3 was doing this survey about this green public procurement issues. And we were really seeing that all those findings, what we will raise up in LUCIA, Work Package 3, won't be in right time, because some of the pilot sites are going already for purchasing technology, etc. But anyhow, this will, now when looking at this now, this will make a really good laboratory of how things are going, because green public procurement is not totally new thing, not at all. We are more or less familiar with the basic about what we're talking about. But now when we are doing these investments in pilot cities, we are really doing this kind of tangible real things, and buying technology, and we are really now testing what happens. But with these forwards, I think it's now Janis Brizga who is going to give a presentation about what happens in Riga and in Latvia. And okay, screen is yours, please.
Thank you. So I will switch to the full screen. I guess you see it full. As I was introduced, my name is Janis Brizga, and working for Smartgreen, and we cooperated this year with the Riga Planning Region on LUCIA project and looked at the some of the green public procurement examples in a Riga, wider Riga territory. So I will share with you some of the cases which we looked at. So, I guess most of you already know what green public procurement is, and this is also specified in EU regulations and also transposed in national legislation. In Latvia, we have already more than 5 years experience with green public procurement topics, and Ministry of Environment and Regional Development is the one who is responsible for working on this issue. And I was also involved in the development of the guidelines, and I guess that was maybe one of the reasons why we also got involved into LUCIA project. On EU level, there are guidelines for different types of products, and lighting. Both street lighting and indoor lighting is one of the core product groups where the EU guidelines are developed. Both covering in kind of core criteria, but also more advanced criteria for municipalities and institutions which want to go a step further and introduce more advanced criteria in a procurement process. The EU guidelines were revised a few years ago to integrate all the new developments around the LED lighting, because 5 years ago, when the first set of criteria were developed, the technology was not so widely used, especially in street lights. But now it's a basic technology which is taking over all the lighting issues. At the end, we will also share some of the technical advices how to integrate, how to get the best LED lighting, if you like. In Latvia, we have identified 7 product groups where the green public procurement is mandatory. So it's office paper, printing equipment, computers, information communication technologies, food and catering services, cleaning products and services, and both indoor lighting and also street lighting. So these 7 groups were chosen because it was supposed to be more easy to apply green procurement. The market was more saturated with the available products, and they also give rather big environmental benefits. And street lighting and indoor lighting is a very good example where it's also cost effective to have these retrofits and replacing the traditional lighting with the more energy efficient. Green procurement is built around several environmental policy goals. One of them being also circular economy, and also climate and energy policy. I think the street lighting and traffic lights serve both of these environmental policy goals, providing more energy efficient, more carbon efficient, emission efficient lighting, but also minimizing the resource use, as LED lighting is usually much more serving time is much longer, so it also diminishes the need for replacing products and producing new ones. Some of the main environmental concerns, as I mentioned, it's energy consumption and climate impact. Also possible toxic pollution, especially if we look back in a fluorescent lighting where mercury was present. One of the topics which sometimes is at least in Latvian municipalities we have seen that this is something new, is light pollution because of the how the lighting is designed. We can actually affect the light pollution levels in different places. From one side, it's a kind of anthropocentric view that we don't see the stars in the night in the bigger cities, but it also has a direct effect on biodiversity and animal life during the night. That too much light can disturb their natural behavior, and this is also one of the places where biodiversity, climate issues are hand in hand. Saving energy can also help biodiversity. Now I'm planning to show you a few examples of cases which we looked at. This is streetlight renovation project in Jurmala city, which is a rather big city close to Riga, and it's a resort city with the Baltic Sea beach. I think some of the LUCIA partners already have seen this project in live a few years ago. This project was done a few years ago when with the help of the EU funding, and it meant that Jurmala city built the autonomous lighting system around the coastline, and including both solar panels and wind generators for producing enough of energy. Also energy storage to ensure that the lighting is available also when there is no wind or sun, because I mean, sun is during the day, but lighting we need during the nighttime. And now it's several years the project is in place, and municipality, at least during the surveys which we did, are rather satisfied with the results, but at the same time we are sure that this project wouldn't happen without the external support from the European funding, because it's still rather expensive to have such a system installed. It could be cost effective maybe in cases where you have to build long cable system to provide the power supply, and this was the case when the lighting system was constructed on dunes on a coastline where there is no existing power supply, but otherwise it's been a rather successful project. Another project which we looked at, and it's very different from, because in Sigulda municipality, the municipality actually procured for the maintenance and repair of electronic equipment for street lights, and introduced some of the management systems, not replacing equipment, but just reorganizing the management, and some of the introductions which they had is dimming the lighting during some of the hours in the night, but also for some of the territories or areas in the city where there is not so much traffic or not so much people movement, and that's really helped the municipality to minimize the costs of street lighting, and and also this case was cost effective in terms of management. Additional point for repair and maintenance that municipality introduced is replacing those street lights which are broken with the more efficient LED lighting, and that's taking the slow step-by-step approach in lighting retrofit, not taking all the lighting and changing it, but doing step by step. Another project is street lighting construction in Maarupe district. This is one of the kind of satellite towns of Riga with urban sprawl. This is a very fast growing territory. If population in Riga city, the core city, is decreasing, then these satellite towns are the only places where the population in Latvia is growing. So this is also means that these territories are developing new residential areas, and also new streets are being built to serve them. Not all the places had in place the street lighting system. Many of the bus stops and bigger roads were not led by street lights, but by increasing the traffic and people's movement during the last 10 years, city has seen their significant necessity to better develop the street lights. So now the city has also developed internal regulation to have the street lights for all the new roads which are being constructed, and also for the bus stops and more intensively used city street, municipal street. They also have introduced the smart street light management system, which also allows dimming of the lights, and also managing different sectors of the street. So you can centrally organize the street lighting as it's necessary, increasing or decreasing intensity of the lighting. So this is another good example which we did identify. Nevertheless, there are several barriers which we saw. We grouped them in 3 bigger groups. So the information barriers, lack of knowledge about the green procurement requirements in indoor and outdoor street lighting. Some of the municipalities are not really very knowledgeable on these existing regulations, on the situation that this is obligatory or mandatory territory where you actually have to do green procurement if you retrofit your street lights. Lack of knowledge on how to fill in the contract notice forms. We have seen several mistakes on how these procurement documents are actually prepared. Lack of information on lighting equipment environmental impacts, and also best environmental solutions. So not all the municipalities have environmental specialists, and they are missing some of the core information on environmental impacts here. Some of the economic barriers we identified, it's higher initial investments for LED lighting, for example, and also life cycle cost calculations. Very few municipalities are using life cycle costs to choose the best alternative for the lighting systems, and this is very much linked to this initial investment. If there are external funds, like in the case of Jurmala city, then in most of the cases the initial investments are not the problem. But if it's if the procurement is mostly from the local funding, then municipalities are very cautious about investing more. Some of the technical barriers, requirements for LED lighting efficiency and quality, requirements for lighting control systems, not always are well known. It also depends on the size of municipalities. Some of the bigger municipalities have power engineers in place, so they can work with this, but that's not the case of all the municipalities. I think some of the barriers will be dealt with the existing regional territory reform, which is happening now in Latvia, making the municipalities bigger. So I hope that will help municipalities to contract environmental specialists, procurement specialists, and engineers, which can actually help them to prepare better procurement documentation and deal with some of these barriers. This is just an example where the Ministry of Environment and Regional Development has prepared the life cycle cost calculation tools. I understand that LUCIA project has or is developing something very similar. This is a tool which it's possible to use for street lighting, for indoor lighting, for computers, for desktop monitors, for printing, and you can calculate both the life cycle costs, but also life cycle carbon emissions, and this tool can be used for the procurement if you use the life cycle cost approach in your procurement documentation. Some of the recommendations. I think one of the core principle is not to go for the lowest price, but to look at the best procurement and integrate not only the price in criteria how you choose the winner, but also more quality criteria, environmental criteria, and also life cycle cost criteria. Here we have listed several technical requirements for LED lighting, and so some of them I will not go through all of them. I can share the presentation later on. But some of the most important here are the color temperature, because LED lighting has a wide spectrum of color temperature, and for different places in a municipality, you might like to have more brown or blue light, and that's you can use this lighting color temperature to actually set the feeling of the city different territories. Then there are several criteria regarding the the quality of the light bulbs. For example, luminar protection class and some others. Important criteria is luminar, the angle, how you actually set the luminar, and this is important to deal with the light pollution. And this is very easy fix for light pollution, so that you can actually light the territories which you actually have to light, not the walls or trees or the sky. And one more technical requirement which is very important is the last one here. It's a lifetime warranty for the LED light. Here we have an example of L70 F10, which actually means that that LED last for 70,000 hours, and after these 70,000 hours, 10% of the lumens will be failed. So sometimes this is very, very important to look at, because sometimes this the lifetime indicator is L50, F50. That means that only 50% of lumens will be functional after 50 hours. And of course, depending on how you set this criteria, how high, that also will affect the costs of lighting. So it's important to actually to set down and calculate how efficient the lighting in terms of lifetime warranty you actually want to get, and what is actually available on the market. The LED lights are getting better and better, and also in both in terms of the quality and also in efficiency and lifetime of the product. So this number is something you actually have to follow all the time for the market developments and see where is it going. And the last slide from my side, some of the organizational recommendations. First is to organize the public meetings to discuss with the distributors or manufacturers the availability of the different market products. Then also register all cases where the lighting didn't fulfill the criteria necessary. That then you can go back and maybe in the next procurement exclude these companies which didn't really fulfill their obligations. Develop internal green procurement instructions, which are very, very helpful and very useful to actually prove why the specific criteria are used in these cases. Ensure control over the selection criteria, as points of award of these criteria may be altered or outcomes of the competition. And this is also very important to have the fair competition during the procurement process. The correct requirements and criteria included in a tender shall also be included in a contract. Sometimes municipalities forget about that, and contract looks actually at the end very different from the tender itself, and it gives some unclarity what to follow. Then also for cases of work, because sometimes the street lights are procurement of the products, but in most of the cases it works when you actually do the construction works of the retrofitting the street light. It's recommended meeting with the general contractor to actually control the construction works and fulfillment of all the GPP criteria in practice. For some of the larger contracts, we also are recommending to do the random laboratory test of the LED lights to actually ensure that they are in line with the technical specification which you actually used. And yeah, these are just a few recommendations, but I guess it could be even longer list. Thank you. And that's it from me. Maybe there are some questions.
Yes, thank you, Janis. That was very good presentation. Of course, when you do those, highlight those what you really have done and those examples, that's very, very interesting, and this also can be seen from our questions. So I try to summarize some. There are many questions, but I would start with Siv's question. And there are question
Janis,
about.
I'm just hopping in. I'm not sure what about Topi, but I would pass some questions to you because the chat has been very active during your presentation, and I would just begin with a question from posted by Heike. What was your core concept towards GPP and luminaires concerning reduction of lux in order to respect light pollution or lifetime or everything? Which problems did you face with industry?
With industry, we have had several meetings with the businesses, and of course they are fighting for the competition between themselves and also giving different competing advices on what it should be included in procurement and how it should be organized. I think the biggest fight is between the, if I can say so, between the producers from Europe and producers from some of the developing countries on the quality of products. I think that's where the biggest fight is, and that's one of the recommendations which I included there about this random tests of luminaires. So that is actually coming from the recommendations from the local producers in Latvia and in Europe in general, saying that in many cases there is actually big discrepancy of what is actually sold and what's written in the technical documentation of the product, and yeah, we have seen this also in practice. There is one laboratory in Latvia, for example, doing the magnetic field tests, and they did this kind of test for LED lights, not for outdoor lights, but for indoor LED lighting, which are sold in general stores, and around 50% of the lights didn't fulfill EU regulations on magnetic field kind of radiation. So in many cases, these kind of factors are not very easy to identify by the procurement specialists. You need really lab tests to do so. So yeah, there are. So that's why we are also recommending this. I don't know if I specifically responded to your question, but
yes, thank you. So what about the other questions we had? There were Tarmo has a very direct question. How has the introduction of battery solar panels and wind turbines affected maintenance costs and maintenance in general?
In Jurmala case, I cannot respond to that because when we did the survey with the municipality, we met. It was almost a year ago already, and the project was in place for a few years, and they didn't have any problems with the maintenance. But as the time passes, I guess that's changes, and I don't know if there is anyone from Jurmala here in a webinar. Maybe they can respond in a chat also. But at least after a few years of work, they didn't have maintenance problems.
Yes. Yes, and about those SIF questions, and continuing with the Heike's question, and there are SIF asked that there are some of the aspects in GPP tend to be more complicated for municipalities, for example, using validation actively. What is your experience on that? And Heike continued with this same topic, that how to increase more precise knowledge toward GPP for municipalities, workshops or something like that. We would really like to hear your ideas or thoughts about that.
Yeah, in Latvia, we've been working with Ministry of Environment, Regional Development, and every year the ministry is organizing workshops with some training element for local municipalities, and not only local municipalities, but all the procurement, all the state also institutions can participate in these workshops. And street light and also indoor light has always been on a priority. Then additionally, we are also doing the guidelines, preparing the guidelines on how to do the validation, what kind of technical criteria to include in technical specifications, for example. Many municipalities have said that they want to have the templates for street light and other procurements, but as I know, the ministry hasn't really gone that track, so they are refusing to prepare the templates, because that's could be bigger variations and differences in needs for different municipalities, so you cannot really prepare one kind of template for everyone.
Yes, thank you. So Nicholas, do we have more questions needs to be answered now? There was also one comment from SIF that some countries included GPP criteria from 2012 in their national guidelines and requirements, but the new ones from 2018 is not included yet. Yes, well, now there is one question from SIF. What to demand on efficacy, energy versus quality of light or glare is also an issue we experience in the dialogue with the industry. What to demand on the efficacy of energy versus the quality of light and glare? It's more.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not really the question, I guess, but of course there is this dilemmas which actually each of the procurement organizers have to deal with to choose between the costs can come into this equation, and try to understand the efficiency versus cost versus quality of light. These are some of the core aspects, and I don't think there is one super answer for to deal with this, but these are the questions which have to be looked at when organizing the tender.
Yes. Okay, I think we'll keep these questions in mind, and if there's something we really need to get back, we can do this after this last comment presentation from Elina, and this all what we have heard now is very good bridge to the comments for Elina's viewpoint. And now we are coming here to Porvoo and see what happens in Porvoo in our LUCIA pilot site, and Elina has prepared a small comment presentation for that. So Elina, if you are ready, so please share your screen, and the screen is yours.
Yes, thank you. Now I managed to get the camera working as well, so hi to you all. Just a second, I try to share my screen. And start the show.
Yes.
You all see the first slide now, I hope.
See it clearly.
Yes, good. So, as Topi said in the beginning, I'm Elina Leppänen and planning manager in Porvoo, and in charge of planning the streets, parks and other public areas in Porvoo. And I'm now giving you a short look at this Porvoo case with LUCIA lights and the procurement of the lights. So the first stage we had here was the planning stage. Our work started with planning the whole area, not only the lights, the park and the bicycle path and wall beside the river where these LUCIA lights were supposed to be then located. So the work was the planning work itself, and also the construction work will be bigger than just one lighting project. And the whole project started with putting out the tenders for designers for lighting design. And this environmental aspect was taken into account already then. Green aspect of lighting design was one prior criteria when choosing these designers. Green aspect was, we kept it through the whole designing process. All materials, appliances, and the function of lights were designed so that with every choice we made, environmental aspect was thought through. So we looked at light pollution, what source of energy we could have, tried to make the carbon footprint smaller with choosing right materials or products. So the planning was the first stage, and then this planning was done this summer, and we had to go to the next stage, which was purchasing the materials and setting up the lighting. So we had to think about this procurement of the lights and other appliances that belong to this whole lighting set, because this was intelligent lighting. It was more just light, more than just lights. There were other products as well included in this whole procurement. We already had chosen the precise materials and products that we wanted, so the procurement based only on price. Because Porvoo has framework agreement with 2 contractors in this field, we did not have open public procurement, which made the process a bit easier and faster. And this was needed because we had, or we still don't have much time for this whole set. In the end, we decided to include the mounting work in the procurement. So the price these 2 contractors offered included all products, their storage and the mounting work. The products must be bought already this year, but the park is not ready for the lighting because it's not built yet. So it's not ready for the lighting to be set up until summer 21, next summer. That's why the contractor must store the products until they can be mounted. So this is where we are now. We have one contractor who will purchase all outdoor lights and other products and also mount them next summer. Only thing we'll have to do now is to build the place, the cycle path and the park so it's ready for the lights next summer. And that's a quite big work before the whole lighting set. So I wrote some notes about these procurements we made. The first stage, this stage of design, we used the criteria that emphasized green thinking, and this required more effort in procurement process than using criteria such as experience of or a degree of a person. Experience in years is easier to evaluate than the green thinking of a designer, how good a designer is in environmental designing environmental aspect to having his or her design work. The one important thing is accurate design work. As we designed everything so accurately that the next stage, the procurement that was for purchasing the products, was easier. We already knew what we want. So that made the next steps easier and faster to go through. And we hopefully get what we want also. Then important part is also this communication during the planning stage. We have to have good communication between designers and contractors, material suppliers, maintenance, all these fields that have expertise on the lighting field. This causes hopefully better quality and lower costs in long run. Then was this stage of purchasing the materials and technology. We had tight schedules. This is always this case. I think we never ever have enough time. And that causes easily mistakes in documentation. And that, of course, can cause delays or higher costs. We noticed that electrical appliances are not easy to get in low price. Designers estimated the costs during the design work, but now when we know what all is in real life, how much everything costs, it's much higher costs than what we expected. The work itself that the constructors offered, that's not expensive, but these products are. Also important point when it comes to green thinking or just organizing the work is the storage, where to store all these things if you need to store them, and the impact of logistics. The less you drive around, the better it is in costs or in carbon footprint. And in the end, I wrote here some points. These are not all the possible points that should be stated out, but a few of them. Planning is very important. You have to, right from the start, look to the far end of the project. You have to find out what the stages are, how much time is needed for every stage, and what you exactly want. This was in other words said there already earlier. You have to have targets and made clear what is the thing that you want, and if you want low costs, you might not get the best quality. That is, of course, the thing. Enough time is needed. This is hard. We always have too little time. Everything must be put up very quickly when we have the money, and that causes lower quality, higher costs. And this communication, that is, as I said, it is very important in every stage between different fields. And one big question that I have is how we can ensure the decision makers or politicians that money and time not only might be needed, but is needed if we want to make environmental solutions. The traditional thinking is that low price is the best thing ever happened. But in long run, it's the maintenance costs and everything that comes with this. If you choose more expensive products or more greener products, then you might get so much better environment, rural urban environment, that these soft costs should be pointed out. You make better environment for all people. And that question also came there earlier, that how can we measure these soft costs? How can we show that this should be done so that we have better cities? I hope I made myself somehow understandable what I tried to say. But if you have questions now, this was my show.
Thank you, Elina. That was very good show. Yes, we have questions. Let's go right to them. And Heike's question, or maybe a comment, is that so you follow the combination of national GPP standards plus own Porvoo-related GPP standards, right? I think this was the case.
I have to read the question so that I can answer right.
Yes.
Just a second. Yeah, we had these kind of own Porvoo-related GPP standards. We are not experts in outdoor lighting. This history that Porvoo has and the state that we have now, that Porvoo owns energy company who always has designed all outdoor lighting, and they have had the best knowledge, but they are maybe not thinking as green as we wish. And now when we started designing ourselves or took designers outside Porvoo energy company, we had to find out how we do this more environmentally, how we take notice in green.
Yes.
Point.
Yes. Then Yuri asked, do you have some formal procedures to choose designers with GPP thinking?
This is the first time we did that. We asked the designers to show references that they had, if they had these kind of projects where they had to have GPP thinking, and then we chose the one who had most experience of this kind of work.
Yes. And I'm just looking at the time. We have 10 minutes left, but there is interesting question still. Sif wanted to ask that was the emphasis in the procurement on the function of the lighting or on specific technical criteria? How would you like to?
This procurement of the design work was more focused on function of the lighting, maybe. Because we didn't know much ourselves. We tried to figure out how we get the best solution in the end, and that was the easier set to think about. Yes. The function.
Yes, and then there is a how to say, quite big question or topic was raised by Carlos, and I don't think we have the time and possibility to now to go down that. But for example, if we like to continue with this somehow, and next week webinar that's possible, because Carlos asked that he pointed out that designers underestimated the costs like a quota, and that's a very interesting point. Could more dialogue with industry from the early stage be a solution for this? And this was a question for all of us, anyone who knows, and also Sif's opinion was asked, and Sif already answered here that I think more dialogue between lighting designers, consultants, and producers will do some. I think the shift in competencies needed for smart lighting is also important for the whole value chain. That's very key finding from this, but I'm afraid that we cannot go very deep in this. Or if Elina would see some wise comment on that, but please.
Well, in this case we had in Porvoo, it might be the case that we had these two contractors only who offered these products, and maybe the products were not the usual that they have been dealing with, and maybe they saw a risk buying those products, or maybe they saw a risk in getting those products, and that's why the price came out so high. So it might be, maybe it's not always the case, but in this case that happened.
Yes. And Heike has this question that do your own local GPP guidelines have a positive impact on cost savings? Maybe also something to answer for Carlos, but can you say anything for this, Elina? Because we know that this is actually the quite first time when we are really going through this GPP way in this purchasing.
Oh, what can I say? I hope so.
Yes, we hope so, and we'll see. Yes. So let me see this chat. Thank you for this very active chat you have had here. It's very, very nice that this topic is really interesting, and you are really using this opportunity. But like I said, I'm afraid that we do not have now enough time to go into that. But please stay tuned. After 1 week, we'll be here again, and then we will have our next webinar. But I think I have to make some kind of a summary now what we have learned and heard this morning. And first of all, thank you for all of you who have been patient and with us all this session. And the key takeaways, like it should thought, what are the most important observations or actions to do, how to go forward. If we go back to the Carlos presentation, it was I think this is how to simplify a complicated issue. This whole thinking behind this economic aspects, it's challenging with this question. There are very good findings. What we have done, the main obstacles were realized. We are enabling outside innovations, and we have also seen the challenge of cooperation. On the business model and governance topic, there was a view from the active innovation that we are really give for the markets the place how to innovate and ask from them. But on the other hand, we are still keeping this leading in our own hands. And of course, an interesting was this projectification. This was very interesting word, because some decisions have been binded in the project plan, and but we all want to do always good impacts. And therefore we really need to pay close attention. What do we write in the project applications that we are not doing any harm for the future development? So that's what we are like a project companies we are doing in every day, considering what's good or what's better. And then from the strategy side, get out from silos, and this method working backwards was very interesting. And from Janis' presentation, there were some takeaways. This cannot be too much repeating for this, that discussion with the manufacturers and distributors is always important. And in the field like this, when the technology goes forward all the time, very rapidly, then it's very important. And like Elina also pointed out, the internal GPP instructions will be important, and on the other hand, they will be developing all the time. And from Elina's comment, it's very positive way how Elina said that only thing is now to do the park and the cycling lines, because we do have very good view how we will implement the lighting project, and we have a great plan and everything goes smoothly on that side, but it's reflected or related to what happens in the park itself. But this is the case many times, that the lighting is the last one who comes to the property. Before that, you have to do every steps before that, and this is not only the LUCIA pilot site case, but this is the normal way of life, and this is some observation that we really need to remember. But the main question at the end of Elina's presentation was how to ensure the decision makers or politicians that money and time might be needed if we want to make environmental friendly solution. That's very good question. And I think our mission in LUCIA project, in our part, is to provide to answer this question. At least we are trying our best. So as a summary, I would say that common goal set together with the stakeholders is very important when we are considering to implement new technologies to achieve changes and governance. And it's inevitable to set guidelines and define the will of the strategic level among decision makers in city policies. And this is our mission now and beyond our project also, that we would like to make this kind of impact which lasts. And then at the end, once again, thank you for joining us today, and go to the LUCIA website. There you can find all those information and all the resources which we have created in this project. And there are nice LUCIA videos. Feel free to distribute them. And please remember to download the calculation tool, which already is in the LUCIA website and also in the expo booth. And remember to get yourself familiarized with the LUCIA Knowledge Center, which is a huge thing. I mean, it's something that will last after the project. There are very good worldwide knowledge base for what's happening in the urban lighting. So I think this is it. And next time, this webinar will be hosted by K21, and it is themes are multifunctional, the life cycle aspects, and I think it's very good place to continue this discussion, which we already started here on the chat, and we see you next Wednesday. But if Carlos or Janis or Elina would say something important at the very last words for this morning, please.
Yeah, only thank you for the nice conversation, and let's keep learning. It's a very challenging issue, and
yes,
I'm sure lots of knowledge is coming out of the LUCIA project.
Thank you, Carlos. So if we are good now, then it's time to go forward with today's other task, and I hope to see you all again next week webinar. Yes, thank you.